Dear English literature learners, I'd like to give you some idea on questions and answers on English literature of early and middle English period 450 to 1350. This video is confined to brief questions with answers. My next video will be on short question answers of the early and middle English period. Part A, early English period 450 to 1066. Question 1. When did the Old English period begin? Answer. The Old English period began in the 5th century when the Jutes, Angles and Saxons came to England from Germany and defeated the English tribes and started their reign. Question 2. What is the duration of Old English? Answer. The duration of Old English period is 450 to 1066. Question 3. What is the earliest literary work of Old English period? Answer. Beowulf is the earliest literary work of Old English period. Question 4. What kind of literary work is Beowulf? Answer. Beowulf is an epic. It is a poem of historic scope telling of heroes and of the world, human and non-human. Question 5. Who is Caedmon and Bede? Answer. Caedmon is the first known poet of Anglo-Saxon periods and the Bede is the first historian of that period. Question 6. Who composed the manuscript of Old English literature? Answer. The manuscripts of Old English literature were composed by churchmen. Question 7. Where was the manuscript of Beowulf found? Answer. The manuscript of Beowulf is found in the West Saxon dialect of Wessex. Question 8. What is the Dream of Rood? Answer. The Dream of Rood is the first religious poem of Old English literature. It is a story of crucifixion told by cross itself. Question 9. Who was the pioneer of Anglo-Saxon prose writers? Answer. King Alfred was the pioneer of Anglo-Saxon prose writers. Question 10. What is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle? Answer. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is the oldest documents of English prose by King Alfred. It is a record of the deaths of the king at the beginning of Caesar and his installation of bishop. Question 11. Where did the Saxon originally come from? Answer. Saxons originally came from northern Germany. Question 12. Which literary work of Anglo-Saxon period is close to modern English literature? Answer. Anglo-Saxon prose is more close to modern English literature. Question 13. Name some of the Old English poems. Answer. Beowulf, The Dream of Rood, The Seafarer, The Witsiad, etc. are some of the oldest pieces of poetry. Question 14. What is wife's lamentation, husband's message? Answer. Wife's lamentation, husband's message are some of the elegies beside the Wanderer and the Seafarer. There is no connection between these pieces, but they display similar quality. They are meditative in character and can be called monologues. Question 15. Where did the name Anglo-Saxon come from? Answer. The name Anglo-Saxon came from two of the three Germanic tribes, Jutes, Angles and Saxon, who in the middle of 5th century left their homes of the shores of North Sea and the Baltic to conquer and colonize distant Britain. Question 16. What does the word Saxon mean? Answer. The name Saxon from Sax, a short sword, means the shouldered man. And from the name we may judge something of the temper of the hardy fighters who preceded the Angles into Britain. Question 17. What does the name Angle mean? Answer. The Old Saxon word angle or ongul means a hook, and the English verb angle is used to variably by Walton and older writers in the sense of fishing. So we may say that the first Angles as hookmen, possibly because of their fishing, more probably because the shore where they live. Question 18. Where did the name England originate? Answer. The Angles were the most numerous of the conquering tribes, and from them the new home was called England. By gradual changes, this became first England and then England. Question 19. Write down the name of the famous literary works of the Old English period. Answer. Beowulf, Ecclesiastical History of English People, Widsith, The Dream of Ruth, The Seafarer, etc. are some famous works of Old English period. Question 20. Who were the famous poets in Old English period? Answer. The famous poets of Old English period are Caedmon, Bede, Cynewulf, etc. Question 21. Who were the great prose writers of Old English period? Answer. The great prose writers of Old English period were King Alfred, Alfric, Wulfstan. Question 22. Who is the father of English learning? Answer. The Venerable Bede, as he is generally called, was the first great scholar and the father of English learning. Question 23. What is Venerable Bede's most important work? Answer. Ecclesiastical History of the English People is Venerable Bede's most important work. Question 24. Who are the greatest three writers of Northumbrian school? Answer. Bede, Cynewulf, and Caedmon are the greatest three writers of Northumbrian school. Question 25. What are the different types of Old English poetry? Answer. Old English poetry is of two types. Number 1, the pre-Christian or pagan. Number 2, Christian. Question 26. Who is considered the father of Old English poetry? Answer. Caedmon is considered the father of Old English poetry. Question 27. Who were the migrants Germanic tribes in Britain? Answer. The migrants Germanic tribes in Britain were the Goths, Vandals, Angles, Saxons, Lombards, Suevi, Frisi, and Franks. Question 28. Who is Cynewulf? Answer. Cynewulf is the greatest of the Anglo-Saxon poets. Question 29. Write down names of some of the notable works of Cynewulf. Answer. Notable works of Cynewulf are the Christ, Juliana, the Fates of the Apostles, the Dream of Ruth, etc. Question 30. Who was Alfred? What was his contribution to Old English literature? Answer. King Alfred the Great was the King of Wessex, and he is recognized as the father of Old English prose. Question 31. How did English literature begin? Answer. English literature began with songs and stories of a time when Teutonic ancestors were living on the borders of North Sea. Question 32. What are the epic of heroic poems of the Anglo-Saxon period? Answer. The epics of the heroic poems of Anglo-Saxon period are Beowulf, Widsith, Duer's Lament, and the Seafarer. Question 33. When did Northumbrian literature flourish? Answer. Northumbrian literature flourished between 650 to 850. Now, brief questions answers on Middle English period, 1066 to 1350. Question 34. What was the duration of Anglo-Norman period? Answer. The duration of Anglo-Norman period was 1066 to 1350. Question 35. Who were the Normans? Answer. The Normans were originally a hardy race of sea robbers inhabiting Scandinavia. Question 36. How did the Anglo-Norman period start? Answer. Anglo-Norman period started when the English throne was defeated by William, Duke of Normandy, at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Question 37. Who brought Roman civilization to the English people? Answer. Normans brought Roman culture and practical ideals of Roman civilization to English people. Question 38. Who established centralized government in England? Answer. Normans established a strong centralized government instead of the loose authority of section chief over his tribesmen. Question 39. What is the spoken language of upper class people, courts, schools, literature during Anglo-Norman period? Answer. After 3 centuries of Battle of Hastings, French was the language of upper class people, of course, schools, literature during Anglo-Norman period in England. Question 40. What was the language of official documents? Answer. Latin was the language of official documents. Question 41. How does the word Norman originate? Answer. The word Norman originates from Normandy, a province of France. The Duke of Normandy defeated the Harold at the Battle of Hastings. Question 42. Which poem in the middle of English period extols the virtue of the ideal knight? In which dialect is it composed? Answer. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is a courtly romance that extols the knightly virtues of courage and truth. The poem was written in North-West Midland dialect. Question 43. Name 2 of the major Middle English dialects. Answer. 2 of the major Middle English dialects are Northern dialect and East Midland dialect. Question 44. Who translated Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain into Anglo-Norman? Who then translated this work into English? Answer. Monmouth's History of Kings of Britain was translated into Anglo-Norman by Wells in his Roman de Brett. Lamon translated it into English for his fellowmen. Question 45. Name the poem written by Orm. When was it written? Answer. Orm wrote Ormulum. It was written in the Anglo-Norman period. Question 46. Mention the 4 Middle English alliterative poems found in a single manuscript. Answer. 4 alliterative poems written in Middle English and found in a single manuscript preserved in the British Museum are Pearl, Purity, Patience, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Question 47. Name 2 medieval romances belonging to the matter of England. Answer. The medieval romances dealing with English history is Havelock the Dane. Another is King Horn. Question 48. Which group of Middle English romance is called Matter of Britain? Answer. Matter of Britain relates to the group of romances of King Arthur and his Round Table, Sir Tristram, Arthur, and Merlin. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight are the finest of this group. Question 49. Name medieval romances belonging to the matter of Rome. Answer. The romances dealing with the matter of Rome include the deeds of Alexander, the siege of Troy, the story of Thebes, and other legends found in Virgil and Ovid. Question 50. Name the Middle English prose written to guide 3 anchoresses. Answer. Ancrinrela by Bishop Poore was written to guide 3 noble ladies who had become anchoresses. Question 51. Which Middle English prose compiles the main body of Arthurian legends? Who is the author? Answer. The main body of Arthurian legends in prose was compiled in the manuscript Historia Regum Britanniae, and the author was Geoffrey of Monmouth. Question 52. Name the alliterative poem which strongly criticizes church and society of Anglo-Norman period? Answer: Langland's Pious Plowman is the alliterative poem that describes strongly the church and the society of Anglo-Norman period. Question 53. Name any two religious compositions in Middle English. Answer: two religious compositions in Middle English are Cursor Mundi, a poem, and Ancrin Rowley, a prose work. Question 54. What is Black Death? Answer: Black Death is one of the most subversive pandemics in human history, resulting in deaths on an estimated 75 to 200 million people, peaking in Europe in the years 1346 to 1353. Question 55. What kind of literary works were for the common people of Anglo-Norman period? Answer: common people could not read and had only a few songs and ballads for their literary portion. Question 56. Name of the most popular ballads of Anglo-Norman period. Answer: Geste of Robin Hood was the most popular ballads of Anglo-Norman period. Question 57. What were the famous lyric poems of Middle English period? Answer: the famous lyric poems of Middle English period were the Love Rune or Letter of Thomas D. Hales, Springtime, Lantern, Ally Shone, etc. Thank you for watching. Our next video is on the short questions and answers on early Middle English period, part B.